March 8, 2014. At Kuala Lumpur International Airport, a standard international flight prepares for takeoff. Families say their goodbyes, passengers settle into their seats, and 239 people prepare for a routine overnight trip to Beijing. The crew at the helm are highly experienced, and the aircraft they are flying, a massive Boeing 777, is widely considered one of the safest commercial jets ever built. At exactly 12:41 a.m., the aircraft lifts into the clear night sky. For nearly 40 minutes, the flight proceeds exactly according to plan, cruising smoothly through the darkness above the South China Sea. At 1:19 a.m., air traffic control contacts the cockpit. The co-pilot responds calmly, without a single hint of panic or emergency. "Good night, Malaysian 370. That would be the final confirmed communication from the plane. Only minutes later, the aircraft completely vanishes from civilian radar screens. There is no warning, no distress call, just sudden silence. In our modern era of constant digital tracking, massive commercial airliners are heavily monitored from takeoff to touchdown. Yet Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 had simply evaporated. Initially, controllers assumed they were dealing with a technical glitch, perhaps a failure of communication equipment or a temporary loss of radar contact. But military radar data soon shattered that theory. This map shows the original flight path towards Beijing, but military data tells a different story. At the moment of its disappearance from civilian screens, the aircraft executed a sharp, deliberate turn back across the Malaysian landmass, flying silently into the darkness. The reason civilian controllers couldn't see this maneuver is chilling. The aircraft's transponder, the specific device that actively identifies a plane to radar systems, had been manually shut down from inside the cockpit. Even with its primary tracking systems disabled, a modern aircraft still sends automated satellite handshakes to space. Using these faint digital pings, experts traced the aircraft's path, calculating that it continued flying for several hours, traveling thousands of kilometers off course, deep into the southern Indian Ocean. Investigators realized they were no longer looking for a standard accident site along a known route. Instead, they were tracking a silent ghost plane into one of the most remote and isolated regions on Earth. Countries from around the world joined the largest search operation in aviation history. Massive industrial vessels scoured endless waves and mapped deep-sea trenches, while satellites analyzed millions of ocean images. Day after day yielded absolutely nothing. As agonizing months passed without a single piece of wreckage or a black box, desperate families refused to believe the plane had crashed. Theories of hijackings and secret military operations spread rapidly across the internet. Then, in July 2015, physical evidence finally emerged. A large section of aircraft debris washed onto the beaches of Reunion Island, near Africa. Experts quickly confirmed it belonged to MH370. Over the following years, more pieces scattered across the Indian Ocean coastline were recovered. The debris proved that the aircraft had indeed crashed exactly where the satellite data had predicted. Finding the wreckage silenced the rumors about the plane landing safely somewhere else. But confirming the location of the crash only deepened the horror of not knowing the reasons behind it. The physical evidence leaves us with the most unsettling variables of the flight completely unexplained. We know the plane turned around. We know the transponder was disabled, and nobody sent a distress call. To explain these precise, deliberate actions, some investigators point toward an intentional diversion. The captain, Zahari Ahmad Shah, had thousands of flying hours and the exact technical knowledge required to execute such a maneuver and evade radar. Yet no hard evidence has ever surfaced to prove he planned a suicide mission. Friends, family, and colleagues described a calm, consummate professional with no obvious motives. This leads to the second major theory, a sudden catastrophic onboard emergency that caused a rapid decompression and severe hypoxia, a total lack of oxygen. In this scenario, the crew and passengers would have quickly fallen unconscious. The aircraft itself would have simply continued flying on autopilot, perfectly maintaining its altitude and course for hours as a silent tomb. Whether commanded by a pilot or an automated system, the flight had only one inevitable conclusion. Eventually, the fuel tanks ran dry, and the massive plane spiraled downward into the freezing, crushing depths of the ocean below. Until the black box is finally recovered from the ocean floor, the final truth of those last hours remains trapped in the dark. 239 people disappeared without a final message or a goodbye, leaving behind a silence that proves the most terrifying mysteries are the ones that actually happen.